The land developer, a man named Mr. Alistair Thorne in a suit that cost more than most cars in Oak Creek, dismissed the community's concerns with a wave of his hand. Emotional sentiment doesn't hold back progress, he'd declared at the town hall, his voice echoing in the packed, humid community center. He stood before a glossy rendering of Thornhaven Estates, a sprawling complex of luxury homes slated for the old, neglected wetlands that bordered the historic, predominantly black neighborhood. The air was thick with the scent of rain and frustration. The elders, people like Mrs. Evangeline Jones, had pleaded, citing generations of knowledge about the land's natural floodplain. But Thorne, seeing only dollar signs, not the wisdom in their weathered faces, had no idea the coming storm would prove them right in the most devastating way possible. For weeks, the fight had simmered. The Oak Creek community, led by the steadfast Mrs. Jones, a retired school librarian with a spine of steel, organized petitions and protests. They weren't against progress, they argued, but against foolishness. They spoke of the ancient oaks with roots that drank the overflow, of the spongy, peat-rich earth that had always swallowed the heaviest rains. Mr. Thorne's team, however, had simply rerouted the main creek into a narrow concrete culvert and begun bulldozing the natural drainage system. To him, these were just poor people clinging to sentimentality, obstacles to be managed. He never saw the meticulous records Mrs. Jones kept in a leather-bound journal, decades of rainfall measurements, water table observations, and hand-drawn maps passed down from her grandfather, a freedman who had first settled the area. What he couldn't have imagined was that her quiet, observant grandson, Liam, was a brilliant hydrology student, and together they had modeled the exact catastrophe that was coming, a secret weapon of data and heritage waiting for its moment. The skies opened on a Tuesday. It wasn't just a storm, it was a biblical deluge. For 48 hours, rain fell in relentless gray sheets, turning streets into rivers. The new, inadequate culvert choked on the debris of Thorne's own construction, and the water, with nowhere else to go, did what the land had always told it to do. It surged toward Thornhaven. The expensive model homes, built on the now saturated and stripped earth, were inundated within hours, their fancy facades collapsing into the muddy torrent. But the water didn't stop there. It rushed into the streets of Thorne's existing high-value properties in the adjacent upscale town of Northwood, causing millions in damage and creating a political firestorm. Meanwhile, Oak Creek, built on the correct high ground and protected by the remaining buffer of wetlands Thorne had tried to destroy, remained safe and dry, its foundations secure, and its streets clear. Panicked, facing financial ruin and professional disgrace, a hollowed-out Mr. Thorne found himself driving his mud-spattered Mercedes into the dry streets of Oak Creek. Humiliation burned his cheeks as he saw children playing on sidewalks his own neighborhoods had lost. He found Mrs. Jones on her porch, sipping tea and watching the crisis unfold on a small television in her living room. "How?" he stammered, gesturing weakly at her perfectly dry yard. "My entire development is underwater. Northwood is a disaster. Yours is perfect." Mrs. Jones didn't smile. She simply opened her journal. As she showed him the generations of data, the precise hydrological models her grandson had calculated that predicted this exact outcome, the truth dawned on him with the force of the flood. This wasn't luck. It was science. It was intergenerational wisdom. It was a knowledge deeper than any soil sample his expensive engineers had taken. In that moment, the arrogant developer crumbled. "I was a fool," he whispered, the words foreign on his tongue. He offered her money on the spot, a hefty consultant's fee to help him fix it. Mrs. Jones refused, her gaze steady. "This knowledge isn't for sale," she said calmly, "but a real partnership built on respect is." The revelation reshaped the entire landscape. A publicly humbled Thorne dissolved his original corporate entity. He partnered with the Oak Creek community to form a new venture, Oak Creek Sustainable Developments, with Mrs. Jones and Liam as lead consulting partners and equity stakeholders. They redesigned Thornhaven as a national model of flood-resilient, eco-integrated housing, employing local youth and preserving the history of the land. The man who had once ignored them now championed their wisdom at national conferences, his story one of transformative humility. The underdogs had not just been proven right. They had become the essential guides, their hidden knowledge saving the very man who had scorned it. The flood had washed away his arrogance, leaving behind the fertile ground for true growth and mutual respect. This story proves that the loudest voice in the room isn't always the wisest, and that true strength lies in listening to the earth and the elders who understand its rhythms. If this story of a community's quiet triumph and one man's transformative humility touched your heart, subscribe to the channel for more tales of dignity, justice, and the undeniable power of hidden wisdom.